Sudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Text 1. Divinity and Divine Service. Chapter 2. Vyasa Uvacha Iti Samprashna Samrishtu Vipranam Romaharshanihi Pratipujya Vachastesham Pravaktum Upachakrame.
Ugrasrava Sutta Goswami, the son of Roma Harsana, being fully satisfied by the perfect question of the Brahmanas, thanked them and thus attempted to reply.
Text 2. Sutta Uvacha Yam Pravrajantam Anupetam Apetakrityam Dvaipayano Virahakatar Ajubhava Putreti Tanmayataya Taravo Dinedus Tam Sarva Bhuta Hridayam Munim Anato Tasmin.
Srila Sutta Goswami said, "Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto this great sage, Sukadeva Goswami, who can enter the hearts of all. When he went away to take up the renounced order of life, sannyasa, leaving home without undergoing reformation by the sacred thread or the ceremonies observed by the higher castes, his father, Vyasadeva, fearing separation from him, cried out, 'O my son, indeed, only the trees which were absorbed in the same feelings of separation echoed in the response to the bereaved father.'"
Text 3. Yasvanubhavam apula shruti saram ekam adhyatmadipam atitir satam tamonidam samsarinam karunayah purana guhyam tam vyasa sunam upayami gurum munina.
Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto him, Sukha, the spiritual master of all sages, the son of Vyasadeva, who, out of his great compassion for those gross materialists who struggle to cross over the darkest regions of material existence, spoke this most confidential supplement to the cream of Vedic knowledge after having personally assimilated it by experience.
Text 4. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narotamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udiraye.
Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayana, unto Narayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author.
Text 5. Munaya sadhu prishpodham bhavabdhi lokamangalam yatkrita krishna samprashno yenatma suprasidati.
O sages, I have been justly questioned by you. Your questions are worthy because they relate to Lord Krishna and so are of relevance to the world's welfare. Only questions of this sort are capable of completely satisfying the self.
Text 6. Savai pumsam paro dharmo yato bhakti adhokshaji ahaituki aparahti hata yayatma suprasidati.
The supreme occupation, dharma, for all humanity is that by which man can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendental Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self.
Text 7. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yogaha Prayojitaha Janayati Ashu Vairagyam Jnanam Chadyad Ahaitukam.
By rendering devotional service unto the personality of Godhead, Shri Krishna, one immediately acquires causeless knowledge and detachment from the world.
Text 8. Dharmaha swanusthitaha pumsam vishvakshena kathasu yaha notpadayedhyadhiratim shrama eva hi kevalam.
The occupational activities a man performs according to his own position are only so much useless labor if they do not provoke attraction for the message of the personality of Godhead.
Text 9. Dharmasya hi apavargyasya narthorarthayopakalpate narthasya dharmaikantasya kamo labhaya hi smritah.
All occupational engagements are certainly meant for ultimate liberation. They should never be performed for material gain. Furthermore, according to sages, one who is engaged in the ultimate occupational service should never use material gain to cultivate sense gratification.
Text 10. Kamasya nendriya pritir labho jiveta yavata jivasya tattva jignasa nartho yascheha karma bihi.
Life's desires should never be directed towards sense gratification. One should desire only a healthy life or self-preservation, since a human being is meant for inquiry about the absolute truth. Nothing else should be the goal of one's works.
Text 11. Vadanti tattvavidas tattvam yajnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagavan iti shabdyate.
Learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth call this non-dual substance Brahman, Paramatma, or Bhagavan.
Text 12. Tachraddhadhana munayo jnana vairagya yuktaya pashyanti atmani chatmanam bhaktya shruta grihitaya.
The seriously inquisitive student or sage, well equipped with knowledge and detachment, realizes that absolute truth by rendering devotional service in terms of what he has heard from the Vedanta Shruti.
Text 13. Ataha kumbhir dvija shrestha varnashrama vibhagashah swanustistasya dharmasya samsiddhir haritoshanam.
O best among the twice born, it is therefore concluded that the highest perfection one can achieve by discharging the duties prescribed for one's own occupation according to caste divisions and orders of life is to please the personality of Godhead.
Text 14. Tasmad ekena manasa Bhagavan satvatam patihi shrutavya kirtitavyascha dhyeya pujaschа nityada.
Therefore, with one pointed attention, one should constantly hear about, glorify, remember, and worship the personality of Godhead, who is the protector of the devotees.
Text 15. Yad anudhyasina yuktah karma granthe nibandhanam chindanti ko vidastasya ko na kuryat katharatim.
With sword in hand, intelligent men cut through the binding knots of reactionary work, karma, by remembering the personality of Godhead. Therefore, who will not pay attention to his message?
Text 16. Shushrushoha Shraddadhanasya Vasudeva Katharuchihi Syan Mahat Sevaya Vipraha Punyatirtha Nisevana.
O twice born sages, by serving those devotees who are completely freed from all vice, great service is done. By such service, one gains affinity for hearing the message of Vasudeva.
Text 17. Shrinvatam swakatha krishna punya shravana kirtana hridayantastho hi abhadrani vidunoti surat satam.
Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma, Super Soul, in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his message, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare
Any mistakes?
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. That was wonderful. Sumadhura Radhika Mataji, that was amazing pronunciation of the verses. I bet you were reading not from the English, but you were reading either from Sanskrit or some other language. What were you reading from?
It was the Hindi. I tried to, because I've read a little bit Hindi. I've learned it when I was a child. So, and I remember the points you made. So I thought I'll try and read properly.
Very nice. Very nice.
I got a long way to go.
Yeah. No. It was amazing because most of us, including myself, we make mistake with and but that's because in English sometimes we miss the marks on the top. But if you're reading it in the colloquial in your own language, Hindi or Sanskrit, then it is much easier. So I noticed throughout you didn't make any mistakes like that. So fantastic. Thank you so much.
Okay,
And Shobana Mataji, as usual, wonderful with the recitation of English, very confident. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Hare Krishna.
Okay, so let's continue the recitation. Let's just stop sharing this and I'll share my presentation. Okay, let me just adjust a few things here. All right, so we are now reading Srimad Bhagavatam and we are on first canto chapter 2 in the very early stages, beginning of that. So we will continue that. The chapter is headed Divinity and Divine Service. And we'll just do the review of the first. The first section actually is made up of seven verses. We're in the middle of that. And that section talks about Sutta Goswami beginning his reply to the wonderful questions by the sages. Because we're quite early, we can just do each quickly just recap on what each verse was saying. So first verse, Sutta Goswami, he's expressing his satisfaction and also his happiness by the perfect questions that the sages had asked. Then 2 and 3, actually, this is where he begins to offer obeisances respects to his previous spiritual masters. So in this case, 2 and 3, actually, both verses referring to Sutta Goswami offering obeisances in respect to his spiritual master, Shukadeva Goswami. And then we'll come to today's verse. Om It's not Om, but Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, second chapter, text 4. This is quite a famous verse because we normally recite this every day. Well, at the temple they do every day. Most people will recite this before they start the morning class, and I also normally recite it on this session also. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam udiraya. Before reciting, so this is the reason why we recite it every day in the morning. Before reciting this Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respect. One should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Translation and purport now by Srila Vyasadeva. So one of you can unmute and read the purport, please.
Can I try, Mukunda-Hari, Prabhu, please?
Yes, Palika Mataji, go ahead.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna, everybody. All the Vedic literatures and the Puranas are meant for conquering the darkest region of material existence. The living being is the state of forgetfulness of his relation with God due to his being overly attracted to the material sense gratification from the time immemorial. His struggle for existence in the material world is perpetual, and it is not possible for him to get out of by making plans. If at all wants to conquer the perpetual struggle for existence, he must re-establish his eternal relation with God. And one who wants to adopt such remedial measure must take shelter of literature such as these Vedas and Puranas. Foolish people say that the Puranas have no connection with the Vedas. However, the Puranas are supplementary explanation of the Vedas intended for the different types of men. All men are not equal. There are men who are conducted by the modes of goodness, others who are under the mode of passion, and others who are under the mode of ignorance. The Puranas are so divided that any class of men take advantage of them and gradually regain their lost position and get out of the hard struggle of existence. Srila Shuta Goswami shows the way of chanting the Puranas. This may follow by person who aspire to be preachers of the Vedic literatures and the Puranas. Srimad Bhagavatam is the spotless Purana, and it is specially meant for them who desire to get out of the material entanglement permanently. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Palika Mataji. Thank you. Om Ajnanati Mirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Mada Swayam Rupa Tada Mahyam. I've lost it.
Dadasita Padamtikam.
Padatikam. Sorry, one day hum Shri Gurum Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaisnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamsha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari. Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Vansha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha. Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhakti Charu Swami Niti Namine, Nek Dacheta Supraneta Vagni Nam Charasaputram Prabhu Padagata Prana Naumi Bhakti Charu Pada. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale, Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine, Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine, Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschate Deshatarine. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayat Nashtapaya Shura Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhagavati Naistiti Krishna Swadhamupagate Dharma Jnana Dipi Saha Kalau Nasta Vishan Esha Purana Kodunadita Prabhupada Ki Jai. So in this verse, Sutta Goswami is offering obeisances to Lord Narayan. We know him, or we know about him. Saraswati Mata, we know about her, and Vyasadeva, we know about her. Not Narayan Rishi. Sometimes this is we don't come across them too often. So I'll ask the question: can somebody explain who Narayan Rishi is, or are?
Arjuna?
Yes, go on. Yeah, so it's
Krishna and Arjuna.
Krishna and Arjuna, thank you. Yes, it was Pramila Mataji, right? Yes, thank you. So it's explained that yes, he comes down, he descends, and he is residing at Badrik Ashram. And he's a representation of the Lord and the living being, the Lord being himself, and Arjuna, it is said as living being. So it's explained in the fifth canto, 19th chapter, text 9. There is a verse that is explaining about him. Shukdev Goswami says, the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are inconceivable. He has appeared in the form of Narayan in the land of Bharatavarsha, at the place known as Badrikashram, to favor his devotees by teaching them religion, knowledge, renunciation, spiritual power, sense control, and freedom from false ego. He is advanced in opulence of spiritual assets, and he engages in executing austerity until the end of this millennium. This is the process of self-realization. So he has descended in the form of Narayan to actually teach people in the Kali Yuga how to practice sadhana properly and make our way back from here. And it is said that Narayan Rishi still reside here at Badrikashram. Not everybody would have the vision to have that darshan, but very highly elevated personalities can still go and actually have that darshan. That's Narayan Rishis. So the importance, this verse tells us the importance of seeking blessings from preceptors, from our predecessors, from our spiritual masters, and the parampara. Because when we offer obeisances there, this is like, as I was saying earlier, this is why Prabhupada has given us the process of reciting these few verses, glorifying, first of all, the Bhagavatam and Vyasadeva and the spiritual masters and Prabhupada himself. We chant all those verses before we recite the Bhagavatam. And by doing this, by offering obeisances, then we seek blessings from them, and we actually invoke mercy from our predecessors, and by that mercy, were able to speak. It is said, Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yat kripatamaham mande shri gurum dinataranam. So it says, Mukam karoti vachalam. So, but the mercy of the Lord, mercy of the spiritual master is such that Mukam karoti vachalam. So somebody who is dumb, like me, is able to speak Harikatha. Mukam karoti vachalam. Pangum langaye digirim. The mercy of the spiritual master makes, even enables a lame person to cross mountains. So this is the kind of mercy that we get from by respecting and offering obeisances to our previous acharyas. Okay, so here Sutta Goswami is offering respect, first of all, to Lord Narayan, because Lord Narayan, his pastimes and activities are what we're going to speak about during the Bhagavatam. The Bhagavatam is full of descriptions of the activities and pastimes of the Lord and his devotees. So the Lord himself is respected first. Then he is respecting Narayan Rishi, who are the expansions of the Lord and are the presiding deities at Badrik Ashram. Badrik Ashram is very important to us because Badrik Ashram is the place, actual place where Srila Vyasadeva taught Srimad Bhagavatam to Shukdev Goswami. So it's very much connected to the Srimad Bhagavatam. Then Mother Saraswati, of course, we know Mother Saraswati, goddess of learning. We would, generally people would worship Mother Saraswati for mundane knowledge, to pass their exams, etc., etc. But we worship Mother Saraswati to obtain the intelligence so that we can understand and put into practice devotional information, devotional life. So people sometimes say that one should not worship demigods, but in situations like this, to worship the demigods is not the worship itself. The demigods we respect and we hold them in very, very high regard, because ultimately they are very, very trusted devotees of the Lord. So we do not disrespect them. But the difference is, whilst the general populace would actually worship the demigods for some mundane benefits, we worship the demigods to give us bhakti. In this case, to give us the ability to learn the Srimad Bhagavatam. In the case of the gopis, they were worshipping Mother Katyayani. Mother Katyayani is another form of Durga. They were worshipping her for what? Not for material benefit. They were worshipping her so that they could get Krishna as their husband. So that is all legitimate. We can do that. You can worship Ganesh also. You can worship Ganesh to remove the vigna, not from our material life, but from our spiritual life. That's also allowed. And of course, Vyasadeva, who compiled Srimad Bhagavatam under the instruction of Narad Muni. So in this, Tato Jaya Mudire, Srimad Bhagavatam, it says is the most powerful means to conquer over the modes of nature and the cycle of birth and death. It says in the verse, it says very means of conquest. So it is only by reading the Bhagavatam, putting the Bhagavatam into our life and making our dealings according to what we learn from the Bhagavatam, that we can then begin to get to the stage where we can end this cycle of birth and death. 8.4 million lives we've been going around. We don't know how many millions of different births we have had. But fortunately, we've now got a human body. Not only have we probably have had a human body even many previous times, but we haven't had the good fortune to come in contact with devotees. And certainly, even if we have come into contact with devotees, we haven't come into contact with devotees like Srila Prabhupada. Of course, maybe not directly, but at least indirectly, we've come in touch with Prabhupada through his through his disciples and through his books. So this is a chance that we have to try and get out of this cycle of birth and death. As usual, we'll just go into the purport and see what we can find from there. So Prabhupada says in the purport, all the Vedic literatures and the Puranas are meant for conquering the darkest region of material existence. So material existence, or the whole of material existence actually is dark. Dark in the sense of, you can say literally also it's dark, because without, right now, if there was no light in this room, no electricity, I couldn't see you, you couldn't see me. So we need help to see. Similarly, in the daytime, you need the sunlight to be able to see. Our eyes, people are so proud of their eyes. Prabhupada often say, so many people say, show me God. But your eyes are so useless. You can't even see normal things without the help of sunlight. How can you see God? And the reason is in the spiritual world, of course, they don't need the sunlight. They are powerful enough to see, and the Lord's effulgence is there all around, so they do not need artificial light. So dark, the darkness in that sense, and also the second part of the meaning of darkness also means ignorance. So everybody here, all of us, including myself, we are in ignorance. Ignorance because we are still attached to our material life somewhat, to a greater or lesser degree. And as long as we are attached to our material things, then we are in darkness. So there's a nice verse in the first canto, third chapter 43, which I also like to recite beginning of the class every time. So anybody know this verse? Bhakti Vaibhavs, this was one of our memory verses. Who is here from Bhakti Vaibhav? Palika Mataji is there. Who else is there? Anna Vishalini Mataji was in our class. I forget who else is there. Anyway, anybody know this verse? Krishna Swadhama Padgate Dharma Jnana Dipi Saha Kalau Nasht Adrisham Esha Puranarko Adunotita. The Bhagavad Purana is as brilliant as the sun, and it has arisen just after the departure of Lord Krishna to his own abode, accompanied by religion, knowledge, etc. Persons who have lost their vision due to the dense darkness of ignorance in the age of Kali shall get light from this Purana. So you see here it says, we are all in the dense darkness of ignorance in this age of Kali. And again, I've just taken a part of the purport where Prabhupada says, prior to his departure from this material world, he empowered Srila Vyasadeva through Narada to compile the messages of Srimad Bhagavatam. And thus, both the Bhagavad Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam are like torchbearers for the blind people of this age. In other words, if men in this age of Kali want to see the real light of life, they must stay to these two books only, and their aim of life will be fulfilled. Bhagavad Gita is a preliminary study of the Bhagavatam, and Srimad Bhagavatam is a summum bonum of life. Lord Shri Krishna personified. We must therefore accept Srimad Bhagavatam as the direct representation of Lord Krishna. One who can see Srimad Bhagavatam can also see the Lord Krishna in person. They are identical. Very powerful part of the verse, of the purport, this actually, I thought. So Bhagavatam is not different from Lord Krishna. It is the literary incarnation of Lord Krishna. We've heard so many times. So when we study the Bhagavatam, we're actually associating directly with the Lord. So powerful. People take it so mundanely sometimes. People, okay, I've got the Bhagavatam, read the Bhagavatam. But when you have this mood, that actually is not just some paper and ink, it's actually the Lord Himself. And then we tend to develop a relationship with our Bhagavatam more than just and treat it more than just a book. So Srila Sanatana Goswami in the Krishna Leela Stava, again, we learned these verses in Bhakti Vaibhav. So we used to recite them in the beginning of the class, Bhakti Vaibhav classes, especially Navdeep Chandra Prabhu used to recite them for us, or with us, rather. So these are some nice verses. We'll recite these verses and also read the translations in a minute. So nice verses. Just try and hear the beautiful Sanskrit here. Sarva Shastra Vipiyusha, Sarva Vedaika Satphala, Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadya, Sarva Lokaika Drikprada, Sarva Bhagavata Prana, Srimad Bhagavata Prabhu, Kalidvanto Daditya Krishna. I always get that one. Kalidvanto Ditaditya Shri Krishna Parivartita Paramananda Pathaya Prema Varshaksharayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namaste Shri Krishnaya Namaste Tume Raga Madeka Bando Mat Sangin Mad Guru Mat Mahadana Mad Nishtaraka Mad Bhagya Mad Ananda Namaste Asadu sadhu tadayin ati nicho chatakara hana muncha kadachin mam premna hit kantayo sura. Let's read the translations one by one. Let's see, someone can just unmute and read the first two verses, the translation.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, can I read?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Hare Krishna. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O nectar churn from the ocean of all scriptures, you are the most prominent transcendental fruit of the Vedas, enriched with the jewels of all conclusive truth. You grant spiritual vision to all the people of the world. Number 2, O life breath of the Vaishnava devotees, O Lord, you are the sun which has risen to dispel the darkness of Kali Yuga. You are actually Lord Krishna who has returned among us.
Thank you. Somebody else, please, on number 3.
Can I read, Prabhuji?
Yes, please, Emma.
O Srimad Bhagavatam, I offer respectful obeisances unto you. By reading you, one attains transcendental bliss. For your syllables rain pure love of God upon the reader. You are always to be served by everyone, for you are an incarnation of Krishna.
I particularly thank you, Emma. I very much like this. By reading you, one attains transcendental bliss, because your syllables rain pure love of God upon the reader. Think about it. Your syllables. So every syllable in the Bhagavatam is raining pure love of God. We just need to be a receptor to receive it. Thank you, Hema. Somebody else, please.
Hare
Meenakshi?
Krishna, shall I read it, Prabhuji?
Okay, yes. Meenakshi Ben, was it? Yes.
Yes, Haribol. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O my only friend, O my companion, O my teacher, O my great wealth, O my deliverer, O my good fortune, O my bliss, I offer respectful obeisances unto you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Meenakshi Ben. So you can see, Bhagavatam is everything to us. Absolutely everything. There's nothing outside the Bhagavatam. And I think I saw Krishnagi Mataji unmute. So Krishnagi Mataji, you can do the last one.
Hare Krishna. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O giver of saintliness to the unsaintly, O uplifter of the every fallen, please do not ever leave me. Please become manifested upon my heart and my throat, accompanied by pure love of Krishna.
So powerful, aren't they? Such beautiful prayers that we should actually recite them every day, because this is what gives us. And this is, as we were saying earlier, by Shuddha Goswami paying obeisances and respects to the previous acharyas. Similarly, if we offer our obeisances and this kind of respect by reading these wonderful verses to the Bhagavatam itself, the Bhagavatam will bestow this mercy on us, and we will be able to have Bhagavatam here, like it says, within our throat and our heart. Within our throat, meaning that we will be able to recite the verses of Bhagavatam without difficulty, and in the heart we will be able to live the Bhagavatam. So these messages are so powerful. And yeah, giver of saintliness to the unsaintly. So unsaintly people like me are trying to become saintly by taking shelter of the Bhagavatam. So thank you for reading those. So just moving on to the purport. The living being is in the state of forgetfulness of his relationship with God, and due to his being overly attracted to material sense gratification. Sorry, I'm not reading it right. Living being is in the state of forgetfulness of his relation with God due to his being overly attracted to material sense gratification from time immemorial. So like I was saying, millions of lifetimes, we don't know when we started, but we've been doing this. So Prabhupada in a lecture in Montreal in 1968, whilst he was talking about Bhagavad Gita 4.1, he said these nice words. So we say, so for Krishna's pleasure, you can become his enemy. You can become his friend. You can become anything. This is Bhakti Yoga. Because your aim is how to please Krishna. Because your aim is how to please Krishna. As soon as the point comes to please your senses, then you come to the material world immediately. Krishna Bahir Mukha Haya Bhogavancha Kare Nikatastha Maya Tare Japatiya Dhare. This is from famous Vivarta. And Prabhupada often says the same sort of phrase, slightly differently. He says, Krishna Buliya Ji Bhogavancha Kare Pasate Maya Tare Japatiya Dhare. Same meaning. Meaning is same. As soon as we forget Krishna and we want to do things for our own sense gratification, that is Maya. And as soon as we give up this process of sense gratification and we go and we do everything for Krishna, that is liberation. So there's a famous verse in the Chaitanya Charitamrita which talks about this, about doing things for ourselves and doing things for Krishna. Anybody remember that verse? Krishnendra Priti Vancha Tare Balikam. So Atmendra Priti Vancha Tare Balikam. So Atma means self Indriya. So to satisfy the senses, our own senses, Priti Vancha. So Atmendra Priti Vancha Tare Balikam. That I call calm, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says. Calm means what? Calm, sometimes we think about calm, about, lusty affairs between male and female. But calm means just desire, just selfish desire. So Krishna, Admendra Priti Vancha Tare Balikam, that I call calm. Krishnendra Priti Isha. So to have the wish to satisfy Krishna's Indriya, Krishna's wishes, Dhare Premanam, that is what he says, that holds prema. That intention holds prema. So let's moving on. The men who are conducted by the mode of goodness, others who are under the mode of passion, others who are under the mode of ignorance. The Puranas are so divided that any class of men can take advantage of them and gradually regain their lost position out of the hard struggle of existence. So you see, the Puranas, there are mainly 18 Puranas, and they're divided into three, as Prabhupada is trying to mention here. 6 in the mode of goodness, 6 in the mode of passion, 6 in the mode of ignorance. And it is many people say that, because the aim of life is to go to move to goodness and then ultimately even go beyond goodness. Why did Krishna even give all this? Why not just point everybody in the right direction and not, take them around the houses? But the Prabhupada makes a point here in this particular purport that not everybody is at the same level. So there are people in different modes. So if you give them pure bhakti when they are in the mode of ignorance, there's no connection. They're not going to connect with it. So you're going to lose them. So that's why there are Puranas in those modes which appeal to them. So idea being that by them following those modes, those Puranas which are related to their modes, they'll gradually make progress and eventually come to the other Puranas and finally get out of this world. So the Puranas in the Sattvic, in the mode of goodness, are Vishnu Purana, Naradiya Purana, Padma Purana, Garuda Purana, Varaha Purana, and Bhagavad Purana, the Srimad Bhagavatam. These are the Sattvic Puranas. Then Rajasic mode of passion is Brahmanda Purana, Brahma Vaivarta Purana, Markandeya Purana, Bhavishya Purana, Vamana Purana, and Brahma Purana. And then Tamasic, the mode of passion, mode of ignorance, rather. Matsya Purana, Kurma Purana, Linga Purana, Shiva Purana, Skanda Purana, and Agni Purana. This is how they are divided. So it's not that the Puranas themselves are in those modes. It's just that they are appealing to those people who are in these modes so that they're able to then move on and make their progress toward the Sattvic Puranas. And where do we get this information from? How are these? Who tells us that these are divided like that? So this is actually given in the Padma Purana itself. So in the Padma Purana, Uttarakhand, text 236.18 says, Vaishnavanam Naradiyam cha tatha bhagavatam shubham garuram cha tatha padmam varaham subhadarshane satvikani puranani vijayani shubhani vai. Oh, beautiful one. And this is actually Padma Purana. This is the part where Lord Shiva is speaking to Parvati. It says, oh, beautiful one, the Vishnu Purana, the Narad Purana, the auspicious Bhagavad Purana, and the Garuda, Padma, and Varaha Puranas all belong to the mode of goodness. They are considered auspicious. Then in 19 and 20, so 19 says, Brahmandam Brahmavaivartam Markandeyam Tathaivacha Bhavishyam Vamanam Brahman Rajasi Nibodata. Know that the Brahmanda, Brahmavaivarta, Markandeya, Bhavishya, Vamana, and Brahma Puranas belong to the mode of passion. And then Matsyam Kaumyam Tatha Laingam Shaivam Skandam Tathaivacha Agneyam cha Shad Aitani Tamasani Nibodata. And know that these 6 Puranas belong to the mode of ignorance. The Matsya, Kurma, Linga, Shiva, Skanda, and Agni Puranas. So this is how the Puranas are divided. So this is all I had for this purport and the text. But what I during my sort of flipping through the things, going through the net, I found a beautiful short video where a young boy is explaining this verse 1 to 4. So I'd like to play that for you. I hope you can hear the sound. Let me see. First of all, let's see if it plays. One second. Let me adjust the screen a bit. And then I'll restart it if I can.
नमस्कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये. So this beautiful shloka, it comes in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, and this shloka is saying that in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, after the first 3 shlokas, they are like a prelude to the entire Bhagavatam. Once the Shanakadri rishis, they asked 6 questions to Sutta Goswami. They gave an elevator seat to Sutta Goswami and they asked this 6 questions to Sutta Goswami. Sutta Goswami, before answering those questions, he offered the obeisance to Sukadeva Goswami. It is Sukadeva Goswami who taught Bhagavatam to Parikshit Maharaj. You know that words. यस्वानुभावमखिलेश्वरिसारमेकम् अध्यात्मदीपमतितीर्षतां तमोन्तं संसारिणां करुणया पुराणगुह्यं तं व्याससूनोपयामि गुरुं मुनीनाम्. After that, Sutta Goswami, he offered the obeisance to various other personalities whose blessings they are needed for a person who is speaking Bhagavatam. So he is offering obeisances. He is saying in this shloka, Narayan Namaskaryam. Let me offer my obeisances to Lord Narayana. Narayan Namaskaryam. So why he is offering obeisances to Lord Narayana, means Lord Krishna? Because Lord Krishna's first tense is described throughout Bhagavatam. So that's why he is offering obeisances to Krishna, Lord Narayana. Narayan Namaskaryam, Narayan Chaiva Narottamam. So then after this, he is offering obeisances to this Nar-Narayan Rishis. So they are the presiding deities of Bhadrakashram. So Bhadrakashram is the place where Vyasadeva taught Bhagavatam to Srila Sukadeva Goswami. So that's why he is offering obeisances to Narayana. are Narayan rishis who are the good selling deities of Badrakashram. So Badrakashram is also connected to Bhagavatam. So Narayanam Namaskartam Narayan Chaiva Narottamam Devin Saraswatim Vyasam. Now he is offering obeisance to Saraswati Devi. So who is the goddess of learning. And then Vyasam, Vyasadev, the compiler of Bhagavatam. Toto Jaya Mudiraye means Bhagavatam is the easiest means of conquest. So he is offering obeisances to these personalities before reciting Bhagavatam. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Oh, fantastic, wasn't it?
Oh, beautiful. I think he's disciple of
million times to get the knowledge and nectar he has.
Yeah, amazing. Sorry,
he's
yeah.
also, I think he's a disciple of Gauranga Das Prabhu. I think he learns the the recitation with him. I've seen him doing that.
Oh,
And
I haven't seen him before, but I thought amazing. I thought the future of ISKCON is bright with young kids like that.
I sort of forwarded this to somebody else, and everybody was saying it's just it's such a wonderful.
Really.
It's from the previous life also, isn't it? It's from
Of course, must be. Otherwise, you can see he's so confident. He's not reading from anywhere. It's all from his memory, and his arm, his hand actions, and everything are so mature. You know.
Very fresh and it's so nice. Yeah.
So that's great. Anyway, so devotees, thank you. Opening up for any questions, any comments, any corrections.
Yeah, I just like to comment. This whole Bhagavatam is so nice to be together with everybody, and it's just so purifying. This whole Bhagavatam, like other day, Chaitanya Maharaj also was saying in the temple when he was giving class on Chaitanya Charitamrita, but he was reading the Bhagavatam slokas, and he said, it's not just now and then. We should, even one word of Bhagavatam will purify us. Every single day we should recite and study Bhagavatam. That way we'll serve Krishna that way. It was so nice to hear him saying that.
That is true. Yes, I heard that Maharaj was saying literally that he said you should read a verse. If you can't read a verse, at least read one word. It will also purify you. That's so nice. Exactly. So, Sumadeva Radhika Mataji, please, if your hand is up.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much for a brilliant class. Really enjoyed it. I just can't understand the point where you showed this Puranas. As far as I understand that Matsya and Kurma were incarnation of Lord Krishna themselves, then why is it that their Puranas coming under mode of ignorance? Please, if you can kindly shed some light on this.
Yes, thank you, Sumadeva Radhika Mataji. So the point is that these Puranas, yes, the Matsya avatar and Kurma avatar, they're all avatars of Krishna. So the point is that it's not that the Puranas are actually themselves in the mode of ignorance, but they are compiled in such a way that they will appeal to people who are in the lower modes, so they can, by practicing the processes mentioned in those Puranas, will be able to make progress. So it is still devotional. It is still taking you to the spiritual path. But it's the early stages of spiritual life. But by following those Puranas, it will be able to still connect with them, although you are not still in the mode of goodness. That is the point.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Hema Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I just wanted to share a humble realization that I've had on the Sri Krishna Leela Stavas by Sanatan Goswami that you just recited.
Yeah.
And before I always used to just say Om Namo Bhagavate Va, and because time is always a bit short, you pick up the book, you quickly say Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, and you get into the reading of the Bhagavatam. And then last year or year before, I heard this, Sutapa Prabhu always recites these verses before he starts his Bhagavatam class. And so I started reciting them every day when I start reading Bhagavatam. And Prabhuji, it has transformed my consciousness and the mood in which I read the Bhagavatam, especially the translation, because it makes you realize that it's not just a book that you picked up, because normally you pick it up from the shelf where the books are. So your consciousness is just linking to the book rather than what you're picking up. And reading the translation and then praying to Sanatan Goswami to help you make Srimad Bhagavatam your friend, your companion, your teacher, it kind of just transforms. So I sort of recommend that if we have the time, then it's nice to read those verses first before we dive into the Bhagavatam. I know it takes time, but it does truly make a difference, definitely, Prabhuji.
Totally agree. That's why we used to do that in our Bhakti Weber class. We used to every Sunday before we started diving into the Bhagavatam, we would actually recite these verses. Very, very powerful. So that's good point, and you can see by making that connection, as I was saying earlier, you can actually understand that the Bhagavatam is not just a book of paper and ink. It's actually the Lord Himself.
Yes, thank you. Very nice class, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Hema. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, can I say something a little to add to Hema Mataji's comments?
Please, yes, share it, Prabhu.
In the olden days, the Bhagavatam was treated with such reverence. It would be wrapped and kept in the temple room because it's Krishna. You should not just keep. Nowadays, we have become quite casual, and we just keep it on the shelf. And of course, there's a lot of cantos. We find that if one gets into the practice of even the canto that we're reading, if we wrap it in clean red cloth and keep it, and when we're reading it, we treat it as a deity of Krishna, because it is a deity of Krishna. It is Krishna's in a literary form, so there's no difference. It's non-different to Krishna's deity or Krishna himself. So if we get into that sort of practice and consciousness, we'll start revering it, and we'll appreciate it, that it's not just a book. But as Hema Mataji said, if you just, it's on a bookshelf, we just pick it up and we just kind of read it, we become what's the word? Too familiar with it, and we don't treat it with the reverence we should. So in the olden days, that's what my grandmother would have her Bhagavatam wrapped, and we could, before we approached it, we would have to bow down to the Bhagavatam before we even picked it up. Yes. So some things like that help our consciousness. So I'm just sharing with you on that. So.
Yeah, I think that's a very, very good point.
Very good point. Very good point.
Excellent point. What we do actually do after the Bhattara campaign, often we do the installation ceremonies in many people's homes. It's the people who haven't done the Bhagavatam before. There's many times new people who are sort of being introduced to the Bhagavatam. So whenever I do the installation ceremony, I always make sure that I point this out. I tell them that, look, this is not something that you just put in a bookshelf to collect dust. You must take care of them. There's nothing. This is not different from the Lord, and you give as much respect as you do to your deities. So I make that point, and I too take your point, because there's so many. You can't wrap 18 books in maybe red cloth. You can keep the books nicely, neatly away from dust, and if necessary, dust them sort of regularly. But the one that you're reading, you're right. The one that you are reading, you must have it nicely wrapped up. What I do is I have somebody gave me a nice sort of stitched thing, which is made for Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. So my Bhagavatam goes in there, and then it is closed. So it's not in a wrapper, but it's in a nice cloth. In any which way, you keep it nicely protected from the dust and anything else. Yeah, good point. Such a nice point. Thank you. So I have 3 points here. I think Jay Prabhu said, what is in the Tamasic Purana make them? I think I answered that already, Jay Prabhu. That it's not that there is anything tamasic in them. It's just that it appeals to people who are in the mode of ignorance. So I got points here. There's nice advice. Shailesh Prabhu, we've been appreciated here on the chat box. Thank you all. So yes, anything else, anybody?
Hare Krishna, Mukunda-Hari, Prabhu, please.
I
just a small question. It's not for today's. When Shukadev Goswami, he came out of the womb and he started walking and he was completely Brahman realized. Because he heard everything Bhagavatam from his father, why was he impersonalist?
So my understanding is that when after he was born, he just walked because he didn't want to get entangled. So he walked away. And we just read in the verses that will come where the Vyasadeva is going to say, "Oh my son," and all the trees will echo back. He's not going to turn back. But when he then returned, because Vyasadeva, what he does, he sends some of his disciples to look for him, and also he says to recite particular verses of the Bhagavatam, which will suddenly attract him. So although he was in the impersonal Brahman realization stage at the time, but when he, just like in the four Kumaras, how did they get transformed? By smelling the aroma of tulsi leaves. Okay. So similarly with Sukadeva Goswami, he was not paying any attention to anybody who was looking for them. But they started verses. And one of the verses that chanted was Baraha Pidam Natavara Vapu Karnayo Karnikaram Vibratvasa Kanaka Kapisham Vaijayan Tim Chamalam Randranveno Adara Sudaya Puranaya Gopa Vrinde Vrindaraniyam Swapadaramanam Ravisha Gita Kirti. This is from the 10th canto, 21st chapter. Gopi Gita. So when Shukadeva Goswami heard this particular verse, it was describing the Lord so vividly that he suddenly turned around and said, tell me more. And then he went back and then he heard the Bhagavatam. Okay. So that was how it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
This particular verse I love. So whatever chance I get, I recite it. Thank you.
Very nice.
Govinda Gopi Mataji, you unmuted. Did you have a comment or question?
Yeah, I understand that if I'm wrong, just correct me. Sukadeva Sila was Sukadeva. He doesn't want to have anything to do with this material world. He doesn't even want to wear shoes because shoes are made of material. He doesn't want to wear any clothing. So nothing material is in his body. He didn't comb his hair. He just walk out and be a free man where no material is attached to his body. That's why he go naked walking around. He's not afraid because Krishna promised him that you will not be attached to material. And in that way, he is so freely walking naked because he really doesn't want to attach to anything. That's how he got naked. Yes, thank you.
Absolutely right. That's right. He didn't have any consciousness of the body. You see, we are all conscious of our body. That's why we need to put our clothes on.
Yeah.
So he was so carefree because he was in such pure consciousness that he wasn't thinking about the body. So for him, whether he was wearing clothes or not, didn't even occur to him because he was completely in a spiritual platform. So thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Hare Krishna.
Krishna, can I ask a question with Chucha? I've never had too much information on in my the Narayan Rishis, which are referred to. We don't hear very much about them, the lineage or in terms of the parampara, in terms of the criticality of their sort of teachings, etc. We don't hear much of it. Could you enlighten us a little bit more about Narayan Rishis and Badrikashram? So
yes, so this is why I put that first slide on, just to give a bit more explanation. That Narayan is basically at the beginning of a Kali Yuga, they a little bit like how Acharya, Advaita Acharya pleaded for the Lord to come down for Lord Chaitanya to come down. So similarly, there were devotees praying, and then Lord himself decided that he will come down himself, because in the age of Kali Yuga, he will show people how to practice austerity. And he came down and he took residence in Badrikashram. So he took a form of Narayan. So basically, so you will see sometimes Narayan referred to in singular way, and sometimes in dual. So Narayan rishis or rishis. So both because they are one but two in that sense, you know. Just like we, us, and the Lord are one in one sense, but achintya bheda tattva, like that. Similarly, Narayan, you see, you can see them as one or two, right? So you see them sometimes depicted in pictures also, as the Narayan is depicted with 4 arms, and Nara is depicted with 2 arms. So that's the Lord and Arjuna, like that. But at times you will see also both of them shown as with 4 arms, you know, like that. So there's a lot of sort of gray area there. But as far as I know, there is not much sort of katha about it. They are there, they're still there apparently in Badrikashram, performing austerities to teach us how that we should also perform austerities to get out of this material world, and not focus on our sense enjoyment. So this is what I heard. And the other parts I had heard before was that Lakshmi Devi wanted, when Lord said to Lakshmi Devi, I'm going to go and be on the earthy planet in Badrikashram. And she said, I can't stay without you. But he said, I'm just going to go there and do my austerity. So you don't need to be there. She then takes the form of trees. Badrika means, I think it's some kind of cherry tree. And that's Badrik. And this ashram is surrounded by these Badrik trees. So it is said that Lakshmi Devi actually takes the form of these trees, and she's there present with Lord Narayana in Badrikashram. But you're right, there's not so much information about Narayana Rishi there. I think it suffices for us to know that yes, he was his incarnation as Narayan to show us how to be austere.
Within this kalpa, presumably. Yeah?
Yes, in this kalpa.
So they were presumably present when Sukadeva Goswami recited.
Yes, exactly.
Within the gathering of the sages in that forum.
Yes, so they are present right throughout the kalpa apparently. So they will be there till the end of this millennium.
Okay.
Prabhu, Uddhav was sent by Krishna.
Yes.
To Badrikashram, so to give devotional service to the sages over there and speak about Krishna. Exactly. And also Narad Muni in this age, he worships Narayan Rishi.
Yes, so I know that yes, in the Bhagavatam, we will soon come to that part where Uddhav is asked by Krishna to go, because when Uddhav says, I want to go also, because you're wrapping up your pastimes, I want to also come with you. And he says, no, you still have some duties to do, and you go to Badrikashram and preach and preach with the sages there. So the Uddhav is part is right. You mentioned about Narad Muni worshipping Narad Muni worship Narayan anyway, wherever he is. So yes, that is also right. Thank you, Vishalini Mataji.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay, devotees, so it's coming up to almost 5 to 9, so we will
Hare Krishna, Mukunda-Hari Prabhu. Can I just?
Yes,
there is more information on this in Canto 12, Chapter 8, Markandeya's prayers to Narayan Rishi.
Okay, so Canto 12.
Chapter 8.
Okay, 12:8, good. So yeah, everybody make a note, 12:8, you can have a look at that, and there'll be more information on that. I'll do that myself as well. Thank you, Ajay Mukunda. Okay, Vancha Kalpataru Vishikapa Sindhu Evacha Patita Nam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Prabhupada Ki
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare
Thank you.
Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
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 Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Mukesh Bhai.
Hare Krishna, मेरे बहन. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Meenakshi.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Dhanavad pranam. Thank you for a wonderful.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Thank you for your contribution.
મુકેશ ભાઈ ઓલી પ્રેરિત મેં કહીને છેલ્લે વ્યાસદેવ બોલે છે સુખદેવજી જતા હોય છે બહુ સરસ છે.
Very nice. You know, we learned it from Radhakanta Prabhu. Radhakanta Prabhu sings so nicely. Before, when we first started the classes, Radhakanta Prabhu, I'm talking about 2002, 2003, every day he used to recite it for us. That's why I learned it and I loved it.
તો એનું ઓડિયો રેકોર્ડિંગ થઈ એ પ્રેયર મોકલાવી શકો.
I think we should have Radhakanta Prabhu, because our mind will not do any justice. If you do, Radhakanta Prabhu will make it, we'll ask him to do one for us.
ભલે તેને હું કહીશ ખરા.
Thank you. Thank you.
ના બહુ સરસ આપણે સાંભળ્યા કરીએ એવી છે.
Yes, exactly.
થેન્ક યુ હરે કૃષ્ણ ભાઈ.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Prabhu. By the way, you know, our Leela Purushottam Prabhu, who used to come to our session every day, his son-in-law's name is Akinchan Prabhu. He is not well. He's in hospital, quite ill. So we should pray for him.
Hare Krishna. Yes.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Okay, we will close now. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
હરે કૃષ્ણ.